But right now, let's talk a little NBA right here, as the Dallas Mavericks has seen the calendar turn from May to June, which means we're a little bit closer to the NBA draft. What will the Dallas Mavericks do with the number 10 pick? Tim Cato of The Athletic has some trade offers that will go over here to get you thinking a little bit about maybe what the Mavericks could be looking at and what value they could get for the number 10 overall pick. We'll go over that here in just a moment. But Brian Windhorst, who is, I think, some to Mavs fans, the bane of their existence, because they're about sick of hearing him talking about Kyrie Irving going to the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, guess what, Mavericks fans? Brian Windhorst had some nice things to say about Kyrie Irving and him possibly coming back to the Dallas Mavericks on the Rich Eisen show. So bear with us about a couple of minutes here. But here is Windhorst detailing what things could look like for Kyrie Irving and why the Mavericks could be in the driver's seat here. Take a listen.
Kyrie and what he, is he really thinking of retiring? I know I've asked you a whole bunch right there, but if you want to soup to nuts it for me, go for it, please.
Well,
Brian.
I have no idea what's in Kyrie's head. I wish you luck finding somebody who does. I don't think he intends to retire. I think he intends to try to sign a gigantic contract with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that team very well could be Dallas. As much as we look elsewhere, I think, Dallas has a lot of advantages. The thing about it is, I think, the Nets, after having Kyrie for several years, were just unwilling to give him the kind of long-term offer he wanted. And that's the challenge. I don't think the annual money is the issue with Kyrie. I think Kyrie is absolutely worth a single-season maximum salary. But if you give Kyrie a 3 or 4 year deal, based on his track record, that's a tough position to ask. And the Lakers are going to show their hand, Rich, because they have to make some decisions by the end of June on a number of players on their roster. They have a number of players who have options in their contract. And, none of them are LeBron James or Anthony Davis, but they got to decide whether they're going to keep Jared Vanderbilt. They got to decide whether they're going to keep Malik Beasley. They got to decide whether they're going to keep Mo Bamba. Now, you may say, how could you talk about Mo Bamba when we're talking about Kyrie Irving? How could you say that? Who cares about that? Well, Rob Pelinka came out at the end of the season and said, we want to keep our young core together. We like the guys that we acquired in these trades, and we're going to keep them together. Now, that could be posturing. He's not on the witness stand saying that. But if they go out there and clear a bunch of cap room and they waive all these guys right before the start of free agency, as we're required to do, then I think we have something that you're looking at. If they don't do that, then I think it's a much harder road for Kyrie to have an option for the Lakers. And here's the other thing: any discussion about Kyrie and the Lakers, his maximum salary is $47 million,
wow.
And I believe that he can get $47 million. Maybe not for 4 years, but I believe he can get that. But the Lakers, even if they cleared all the decks, cut everybody that they could only clear between 30 and 35, Rich. So any Kyrie Laker dream would probably mean Kyrie willing to take a pay cut. Maybe he will. I don't want to assume, but that's important. It's not going to be apples to apples to what Dallas potentially can offer.
So remember, the Dallas Mavericks can offer Kyrie Irving a 5-year, $272 million contract. They have his bird rights, which means they can give him more money than anyone, including the Los Angeles Lakers, who would have to basically gut their franchise in order to get Kyrie Irving. And even at that point, as you heard Brian Windhorst on Rich Eisen's show detail, they could really only give him up to, $35 million per season. So he would have to take somewhat of a pay cut if he wanted to make it work with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. The other factor with that is, whether it be Windhorst, it is what it is. I appreciate you, 469, helping me out here. But at the same time, what Brian is detailing, 469, is the idea that it's going to be very difficult for Kyrie Irving to find his way to Tinseltown, which, if you're a Mavericks fan, if you want Kyrie Irving back going into the 2023 season and beyond, that should be music to your ears. But at the same time, not only do the Mavericks have to worry about bringing it back Kyrie and ensuring that they have what they need to build around he and Luka Doncic, there's a matter of the number 10 overall pick in this year's NBA draft and what they may do with it. Tim Cato of The Athletic, in his latest piece today, who can the Mavericks get if they trade the number 10 pick? he elicited some help from some of his fellow athletic beat writers who cover other teams, including the Toronto Raptors, among others, to put out some trade scenarios that we'll go over here. And let's see on the text line 877-881-1053 what you think about some of these trade scenarios and get your thoughts on that. Trade number one that he has, which is a less ambitious trade, but could be somewhat realistic. The Mavericks get in this particular trade with the Toronto Raptors, Chris Boucher, Otto Porter Jr. for the number 10 pick and Davis Bertans, to which I say, hell no. The reason why, look, I'm not giving up the number 10 pick to get Chris Boucher and Otto Porter Jr. Now, the contract of Davis Bertans, okay, let's see if we can get off of that at some point to be able to clear up some space going forward here. From the 940 KG, are we supposed to be okay as Maverick fans? That is what we might have to expect next year is retread this year. Clarify that for me, 940. I want to know what you mean more by that, because the Mavericks and what they gave up in Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie, a 2029 future first round pick to get the rights to Kyrie Irving. You did what you had to do, and if you're the Mavericks, you should be all in bringing Kyrie Irving back because of what you gave up and what your offensive ceiling looks like with Kyrie and Luka on the floor together, especially once they have a training camp together to be able to get the kind of rhythm that we saw at times for them. The high point being, remember, they both had over 40 points in that game against the Philadelphia 76ers, but you're wanting to see that continuity grow between those two, and you can only do that if Kyrie's back with this team and going through a full training camp, which is why the number 10 pick is so important, to either find value there to be able to move it somewhere else to get a veteran piece to help you now, or you may be in a position where you may want to trade down in the first round. Maybe if Atlanta is feeling good about themselves and wanted to do some business with you, maybe a Clint Capella, who you need in terms of some rim protection, a rebounder on both offense and defense. That could be something that you might be interested in. Another trade that you could be looking at that Tim Cato poses, which would be a little bit more ambitious and something that I don't think the Raptors would necessarily do, but we'll just go through it just in case you want to hear it. OG Anunoby, Thaddeus Young, that the Mavericks would get in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and the number 10 overall pick in this year's NBA draft. From the Mavericks perspective, that Tim Cato writes, Dallas has to try for Anunoby, and this is the richest offer I can imagine them comfortably proposing to Toronto. The Mavericks are optimistic about Green's continued development, as they should be, but another forward step next season still won't make him as impactful as Anunoby is right now. Now, from the Raptors perspective, it would probably take a little bit more to go get LG Anunoby. If you remember, there were reports that there was a team, maybe the Knicks or someone else, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but there was a team that was out there that was willing to offer the Raptors 3 first-round picks, and Masai Ujiri and the Raptors said, actually, no, we're good here. And we're waiting on the Raptors to see what they decide to do with their franchise going forward. Are they going to continue to run it back with Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, while they build around Scotty Barnes, or will they finally blow the thing up and move on from there? Who knows at this point? They have the NBA waiting on pins and needles to actually decide to do that. So from the 972, they don't like that trade idea with Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, and the number 10 pick going to the Raptors for OG Anunoby and Thaddeus Young. As I mentioned, maybe Atlanta feels good about their situation. The trade that's proposed here for some size, if you're looking for that, for the Mavericks. In this trade, the Mavs get Clint Capella and the number 15 pick in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr. and the number 10 pick. I actually kind of like this deal. You look at what the Mavericks need, as I mentioned, some size in terms of rebounding on both offense and defense. Is a team that's not very good when it comes to second chance points and their inability to get second chance opportunities off of offensive rebounds. They need some help in terms of a rim protector and a shot blocker. Clint Capella could possibly do that for you. He made over $18 million this past season, and you still are able to keep a top 15 pick by exchanging the 10 and the 15 pick with the Atlanta Hawks there. I kind of like that one, given the fact that you're able to solve some need and maybe with the number 15 pick be able to find you a 3-and-D player or another tall shooting guard that can provide you some length, some shooting, and have some upside as a defender, maybe like a Jordan Hawkins, for example, out of UConn. So of the trades that he has so far, I don't actually mind that one when it comes to the Atlanta Hawks and the Dallas Mavericks. Of course, we know a little something about the Atlanta Hawks and the Dallas Mavericks doing business together, because you remember that one time that the Mavericks and the Hawks did business for, Luka Doncic, and that worked out pretty well. That's right, 682. Remember what happened the last time we traded with Atlanta from the 972. Now that's a good trade that they would like to see. Clint Capella in the number 15 pick going to the Mavericks in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr. in the number 10 pick. Now Hardaway is interesting because he has a descending contract, which could be attractive for teams. While yes, there's inconsistency at times for him as a shooter, and we know that he can be a revolving door on the defensive end, there are teams that are still looking for veterans that can shoot the basketball. And if you're looking to put some of that around Trae Young, maybe you feel good about that if you're Atlanta and moving on from the number 15 pick and Clint Capella to be able to help out the Dallas Mavericks there. From the 214, give me that Atlanta trade all day. We win Atlanta trades. Again, going back to the history that was Luka Doncic and, of course, Trae Young in that fateful trade that, of course, we all know and love here. Here's an interesting one here. The Mavericks get Rashawn Holmes from the Sacramento Kings, and the Kings get back Davis Bertans in the trade. Rashawn Holmes, good player. Maybe Sacramento looks at Davis Bertans as a three-point shooter, can help out there in terms of some bench scoring to help out Mike Brown and that team. Wouldn't necessarily mind that one either. But of all of these trades that we've gone through so far, this is the best one that I believe sounds realistic, but also allows you to remain in the first round of the NBA draft, but solves a need in terms of some big man help. And you're able to move off of Tim Hardaway Jr., who's got a good contract that's got, some value to it based on what you're seeing there and what other teams may look at when it comes to THJ and what he brings to their team. So I'm in favor of that one. Of all these trades, I'm good with that one. Clint Capella in the number 15 pick in exchange for Tim Hardaway Jr. in the number 10 pick. Make it happen, Dallas. Make it happen, and then you can continue to build around Kyrie Irving, assuming he comes back for the Mavericks this upcoming season. From the 682, what do you think we trade for Miles Turner? I would love to see Miles Turner in a Dallas Maverick uniform, but here's the thing. You got a lot to try and give up. There would be a lot for you to try and give up there. And I told somebody this earlier today. I said, look, Josh Green should not preclude you from making a move if you feel like that move can help you get better right now. As much as I enjoy Josh Green and his development from the three-point line, the energy that he brings off the bench, good passer, Josh Green is not going to preclude me from making a move that's going to make my basketball team better right now. Jaden Hardy is somebody that I want to keep. Josh Green is something that I would love to keep preferably. But again, if I need to make that move for him, then I do it. And Miles Turner would be that kind of player that if I got to move off the number 10 pick and Josh Green to make that happen, I would do that. But you're going to have to get a whole hell of a lot more creative to try and get Miles Turner because of what he's got going on in Indiana. But those are some Mavericks trade offers by my man Tim Cato of The Athletic. And the Dallas Mavericks, of course, hold the number 10 overall pick in this year's NBA draft. We'll see what they do coming up here in a few weeks.